Every morning, Margaret Maggie Henderson would stand in the hallway of their apartment, knot her husband's tie, and send him out into the wicked world of advertising. Every evening, she would cheerfully greet him home with a hug and a kiss, and a careful inspection of the tie for any telltale signs it had been removed or loosened. Maggie had made it quite clear the day she consented to marry Alfred, and that she did not trust him, or indeed any man, to be faithful. That she consented nevertheless was in large part due to the promise she made that day, and the glimpse of fear in Alfred's eyes as she solemnly told him that promise. Alfred's colleagues would tease him about his refusal to remove his tie whenever they managed to cajole him down to one of the local pubs for an after-work drink. "Who wears the trousers?" they'd ask, but it was a question he was in entirely no doubt as to the answer to. He would calmly put up with their ribbing, and they would look for loopholes in his domestic arrangements. This was not with the intention of trying to get him to be unfaithful, but merely the kind of good-humored fun that most men will indulge in over a couple rounds. They would suggest he really ought to be able to tie his own ties. He'd say that he could, but he couldn't tie the ties his wife could tie. She knew, apparently, 85 distinct knots, whereas he knew a mere 2, the half-Windsor and the schoolboy, and she was careful never to use those. "So why don't you learn the others?" they would ask. "All 85 of them?" Alfred would reasonably object, and in any case, a small difference in length or some other discrepancy would be enough to give him away, and this was also why he couldn't even afford to loosen his tie. "But you can't let her beat you," they would cry, their honorous men demanding increasingly dastardly plans, all with the aim of allowing him at least the opportunity to cheat, even if he never actually used it. But Alfred was happy to have this unwanted opportunity denied him. It simplified his life, and though his colleagues might view him as a bit of a square, a gray in the bright world of advertising red, there was a core strength in the simplicity of Maggie's promise, in her threat. "If you are unfaithful to me," she had said that spring day long ago before agreeing to wear his ring, "I will find out. I will leave you. And I promise you this, Alfred Henderson. You will suffer." It had become the easy, satisfied bedrock of their relationship, the apple in the Garden of Eden, so to speak. All other facets could be worked through, compromises found, apologies offered and accepted, just so long as this one cardinal rule was not violated. The constant thought of it, the reminder he wore around his neck every day, the fact that every time temptation did present himself, his neck felt a little bit tighter, kept him well out of trouble. Until the office Christmas party. Alfred never knew if someone had said something or if he was merely picked on at random. But there she was, leaning over his table. "My, that's a nice tie," she said, to ripples of laughter from his own table. And not just his table, the whole room seemed to grow a little bit quieter, a little more focused on him and on her. She leaned further forward, impossibly forward, and wrapped her gloved arms around his shoulders. "Have a little faith," she whispered in his ear. And then she was gone. The crowd of paper-hatted Christmas revelers cheering as she stood and waved something in the air. It was a tie. His tie. His hand flew to his neck, and the room roared with shocked reaction. The female magician loosely knotted the striped length around her corseted waist. "What do you think?" she asked the audience. "Does it suit me? Or should I give it Alfred tried to add his voice to the cries of "Keep it and give it back!" But his voice rasped and croaked, barely audible to his own ears. He stood and took a couple of unsteady steps towards her, still trying to make himself heard. She said, her head cocked to one side. Or does bum look hideous? There was a sudden bright bloom of flame around her slim waist, and the tie, his tie, was gone. The crowd went wild. As Alfred felt himself crumple, his eyes locked with hers, a fleeting moment, as if for a moment she realized what she'd done to him, how she had utterly destroyed him. Then the smile returned and she winked, before raising her hands until the holler died down. I think Alfred here deserves a round of applause for being such a good sport. Once again, she had her hands around his shoulders, and as he stifled a sob and a tear welled up in his eye, she leant in, and he felt a firm kiss planted on his cheek. And then she was gone. On to the next group to practice her magic there, leaving Alfred stranded, bereft. His table was still howling with laughter and pointing excitedly at him. But why were they pointing? He realized that the tightness around his neck had returned. He looked down, and there it was, his tie. And it was even done up in the same distinctive Cavendish knot that Maggie had tied for him that morning. His mouth gaped open, impossible how. Had it all been an illusion? But he had felt the looseness around his collar. His fingers had brushed the top button of his collared shirt. He staggered back to his seat, a giddy grin replacing the death's head grimace. And as his boss clapped him on the shoulder, he tried to check his reflection in the flat surface of the silverware. The circus performers, the clown, the magician, the ringleader, were gone by the time the after-dinner speeches began. By the time people got up from their tables to find stronger drinks, to dance and to mingle, so he never got a chance to ask his musician how she had managed it. Never got a chance to thank her for saving his marriage. There was still a tiny, lingering doubt that the time might not pass muster, but this was surely a magical night, and all would be well. Though not wanting to push his luck, he took himself home before things got too messy. As he opened the door, as his wife flip-flopped over in her house slippers, as she scrutinized his immaculately knotted tie, he beamed with relief. A pity then that, as he turned to present his cheek for her customary greeting, Maggie found the perfect imprint of a female magician's ruby red lips. Thank you.